This is TWiT.
Emily, tell us about your story of the week.
All right. So I wanted to talk about the Scarlett Johansson OpenAI drama, which I have been thoroughly eating up. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh, yeah. Lots of popcorn for me, for sure.
Lots of popcorn. Yeah. So where do you want to begin?
So let's start. Let's have you, for the folks who may not know what's going on. This show ends up being a lot of time, because AI is so much in the tech news space, a show where a lot of people learn about what's going on in AI. So if you could start by kind of explaining what's happened up to the new Washington Post report. We won't mention that yet. I think we will have you explain. We'll play a little clip, we'll chat, and then we'll talk about what's happened most recently. Okay,
excellent. So last Monday, OpenAI had this big event. They hyped it a lot on social media. It was on a Monday. Google's big event was on a Tuesday. So a little bit of a dig there, like kind of getting ahead at Google and the whole AI race. And so they get on the live stream on Monday, and they unveil this new model, which is a more advanced model for free users and plus users, people who are paying for ChatGPT. And the showstopper of the demo, you could call it, was this thing called voice mode, where OpenAI employees are sitting there and they're talking into the phone like this with ChatGPT, and it's like super quick conversation, crazy human-like. It was really impressive, and which was cool to see. And then, I don't know the timeline. I actually wrote the dates down. I did a little investigation. But basically, Scarlett Johansson comes out later and is like, you guys used my voice, because Sam Altman is obsessed with the movie Her, where Scarlett Johansson is the computer voice who falls in love with Joaquin Phoenix, which is such a funny plot. That movie came out in 2013. So on the same day as that demo, Sam Altman tweets just the word her. So like he's making the connection to the movie. He's like, tech is so good now. We can have these conversations. And then she comes out later with a statement is like, yeah, you ripped off my voice. That sounds exactly like me. And she claims that Sam Altman had contacted her 9 months prior and asked her if they could use her voice. And she said no. Then they reached out to her again, like 3 or 4 days before the more recent launch. And she hadn't said no, she hadn't responded, but they expressed interest in her twice. And clearly Sam Altman has like a fascination with this movie. So I think that definitely happened. But basically she turned them down, and then they just went with it anyway. And she said all her friends and family think it sounds exactly like her. She was shocked. It was an SNL skit. Her husband is on SNL. And so it's just this big moment where everyone's like, wow, they ripped off your voice. And so she comes out with a statement about how she was like, quote, like shocked and angered and in disbelief. And the issue of deepfakes is very serious. And then OpenAI comes out with a statement that's basically the direct opposite and is like, we didn't use your voice. It was a different actress. And I don't know, kind of like kick rocks. Like, I don't know. They were just like, so like
that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they posted a more lengthy like Kick Rocks blog post, kind of like this is what happened and why, that's their thing. They like publish these blogs. So yeah, that's the gist. And like I said, I launched an investigation. I wrote on a physical piece of paper.
There is a real piece for those who are listening and not watching. Yes. There's a real piece of paper with notes on it for this. And one of the things that stood out about this, and then we will play a little clip as well, so that people can kind of make their own judgment, that there was, I believe it was even in Scarlett Johansson's statement, but somewhere at some point, someone said that OpenAI and more directly Sam Altman sort of hoped to work with Scarlett Johansson because of the ongoing conversation and controversy surrounding the use of AI in creative fields. And there's this idea that if movie scripts start being generated in AI and the artwork in movies is generated with AI and the computer graphics are done completely with AI, that it's shoving humans out of the creative process. And so OpenAI thought, let's try to bridge the gap. Let's make this all feel a lot better because you, Scarlett Johansson, who are a well-known creative who also happen to be the voice of an AI, if you come in and you be the voice of this, it's a happy, sweet moment where we're all working together and you can show how humans can still be at the forefront of AI products. So for that to take place and for this conversation to even exist at all after this was supposed to be a bridging the gap moment kind of adds salt to the wound, fuel to the fire, and a number of other metaphors that work in that spot.
Very good point. And so she said they reached out to her 9 months ago. So that would be August 2023. I don't remember, were the Hollywood strikes about SAG and AI and all that? Was that last August?
I think so. Yeah.
Feels like it was around that time. So she declined at that moment. They say they reached out to her in September, but then the beta mode of voice mode, I guess the beta product of this voice product came out in September. And now what we just heard last week is like a more advanced, fully fledged product that's going to be launching soon. So that's the timeline. And I think we should play the clip. And I think people can decide for themselves, like, do you think it sounds like Scarlett Johansson or not?
Yeah. So here is a clip that's a little bit of a clip of a demo that OpenAI put out of GPT-4o.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey there. It's going great. How about you? I see you're rocking an OpenAI hoodie. Nice choice. What's up with that ceiling about? Are you in a cool industry style office or something?
Well, can you take a guess at what I might be doing based on what I'm showing you here?
And for folks listening, is moving around the camera.
See, it looks like you're in some kind of recording or production setup with those lights, tripods, and possibly a mic. It seems like you might be gearing up to shoot a video. Or
all right, that's plenty. So
yeah,
in this video, you hear this voice, and look. So I think due to the nature of my job and also some strange fixation I have, I am kind of, I've had people tell me this, that I'm kind of overly sensitive to voices in general. I can usually tell when someone's has a cold or something's going on where their voice has shifted even subtly. I pay very close attention to voices for some reason. And I will say that when it is played on its own and I go to my recall of the movie Her and even recent recollections of it, it does sound a lot like her. However, we have seen, like her and like her, we have seen clips where they do side by side. They'll play the one and they'll play the other. And I feel like that results in me not feeling it as much, that they are the same. I will say this, they are similar. And more important than the sound of the voice is the sort of cadence and delivery of the voice. That is where I think that it sounds a lot like it. And where, there's that conversation of what's going on. Just as an aside though, something that's kind of interesting to me is in all of my different smart assistants, I always choose a male coded voice. And so I actually had never heard this voice other than whenever it has shown up in presentations, because I always go to the kind of pitch shifted lower voices, mostly because I kind of think like I have a bone to pick about choosing women as assistants in the first place, because we did plenty of that in real life. And so it's like, let me boss a dude around. So I hadn't really heard this voice outside of this in the first place. And so now that this has all come up, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of seeing what folks have been talking about. But yeah, I'm curious kind of, because you've heard them side by side and you have been, researching this. How are you feeling kind of about it after all of this news has come out? And does it matter necessarily if the voices are exactly the same?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'm honored to be talking to a voice connoisseur and also feminist.
Woo!
So this is great. We have the right people in the room. So I think it sounds like a computerized version of her voice. So pretty much it sounds a lot like her. But these are words she's never spoken. It's never meant to be a recording of her.
Mhm.
It's meant to be, they take her voice and they can make her kind of talk and say words she's never spoken before. And I think it sounds very similar to that. I feel like they intentionally cast an actress. They claim they cast an actress, by the way. So they came out with this post that says they searched for 400 people. They picked 5, and this is one of those 5 voices. It seems very clearly like they tried to find someone who sounded as close to her as possible.
Mhm.
Especially because he tweeted her,
right. That doesn't help.
He made the connection. It's very clear he has a fixation with this movie, and I think he kind of needs to like come off it. But
that's what the lawyers are telling him.
Yeah, it's like that movie came out a long time ago. I think we can all like move forward, and you don't have to like have a copyright infringement situation. That's just a personal thing for him. I don't really get it, but yeah, I think it's concerning because there's no truth. Like you're not going to get to the bottom of it. And what she says in her statement is, we deserve clarity on this. And I feel like whether or not it's legal or not, I think it's probably legal. There's like this gut feeling and this feeling inside of her where she was like, this feels bad. Mm-hmm. And I feel like anyone would agree with that. I mean, I've seen my own articles summarized by AI chatbots and stuff. And it's kind of like, whoa, yeah, that's interesting feeling. And so I think it's probably not legal, but I do think it matters. I think it's disrespectful to people. I don't think it feels good. And I don't think we should be building tech that doesn't feel good. And it's not necessarily more useful if it sounds like Scarlett Johansson or anyone else.
That is the big point, right? It doesn't make it more useful just because it sounds like Scarlett Johansson. And on MacBreak Weekly earlier this week, even though the show's ostensibly about Apple, we did start it by talking about this situation. And in it, we had 2 people, Leo himself and Andy Anatko, who were playing the lawyers on the show. And they looked up a lot of case law and found some precedent where in the past, I believe it was Bette Midler was one of the people. Who was it? And Tom Waite. They were asked to do some ads, and they said, listen to how I'm about to say this. There was a company that wanted to work with them to voice some ads. So they reached out to them, and those 2 people said, no, thanks. So they went out and they found people who sounded like them, and then they did the ads. And then precedent was the case that let me rewind a little bit. When they went to court for it, Bette Midler and Tom Waits won because there was a clear and direct comparison between the 2. And even though it was a different person, if they were trying to sound like those people, then that was an issue. That was, an issue. So you don't even it doesn't even necessarily need to be, or it doesn't matter necessarily that it's another person according to how things have been ruled in the past. Now, I think that is interesting. And I think that is one more reason why Sam Altman should not be tweeting her, because I can just see all of this it's printed out on a big old piece of poster board and laid down in front of the judge. Let's talk about, though, Natasha Tikku's post in the Washington Post, Democracy Dies in Darkness, that says, OpenAI didn't copy Scarlett Johansson's voice for ChatGPT, records show. What's going on there? What did Tikku's newest article show? And does that impact things for you personally and kind of the story as a whole?
Yeah, so you found that article, which was a great find. And basically, they contacted some unknown agency that claims and showed the paper trail that they definitely didn't copy Scarlett Johansson's voice. Did you think there was anything new in there?
No. That's the thing, right? Is that OpenAI itself kind of already came out with this and said, look, this is what we did. And so even though the records show that it wasn't true, yes, it was not Scarlett Johansson's voice that was literally physically taken and used. That isn't enough for this to not
well,
be
I
an
have
issue.
something. Yeah. So what was new for me, and I think I hope continues to go in this direction, is a spotlight on who the heck this like agency was that basically procured these voices and why they're not saying the agency's name, because what is it? CAA, UTA, like all those big Hollywood talent agencies are always showing up in articles. And I'm like, I don't care the agency name, but it's like always in there. For some reason, now it's not in here. There's no article in Deadline about this and that agency that, did this really sophisticated casting process that OpenAI is saying. Also fishy, whoever is the voice, that woman, why don't they just say who it is? Like we knew who did. Please? Yeah, we knew who did like Siri. I think there was a woman, like Apple came out with that was a while ago. That woman, if I was her, I would totally disclose myself. This is your moment. This is your time to shine. This is where you're going to get fame. Come on out if it's you, right? So I feel like there is some fishiness, both in the fact that this is some murky, unnamed talent agency. Why don't they just say who it is? I feel like there's who knows what the heck happened. They could have taken someone else's name and asked the tech, make it sound more like Scarlett Johansson, which is exactly what their technology does, by the way. So that article, though not like totally new, it seems like the Washington Post talked to this unnamed agency, and now we're spotlighting on that whole thing. And that is also what OpenAI focused on in their Kick Rocks blog post, was like, we worked with an agency. And so it's like, okay, so who is it?
Yeah. Come on, just put it out there.
Come on,
I don't know why.
Out with it.
Yeah, you know what? The reason why it's not come out yet is because that person's going to end up writing a book that may be generated by AI.
Yeah, or it's like some like content farm in Moldova that like put out a post and was like, I don't know, maybe it's not an agency, and maybe they just, because I don't think the process was that sophisticated, because they reached out to her just a couple days before the launch and are like, do you still want to do it? Which suggests that they can turn this around in a couple days.
Yes. That's the thing that really stuck out to me, is that alone is kind of like, oh, one last chance to get our ducks in a row.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it was a situation where, again, this is all speculation, but you see kind of these patterns play out, and it feels a little bit prideful at that point. Like, well, since it wasn't her voice, who cares? And we can prove that it's not her voice. Who cares? Whatever.
So more to come, hopefully.
More to come. And hopefully more to come kind of from an external factor. Thanks so much for watching this little chunk of Tech News Weekly. If you'd like to get the full episode, well, head over to twit.tv/TNW. There you'll find buttons you can click or tap to subscribe to the entire show in audio and video formats. Or just look in the description. We've got links down there as well.